Is there a doctor in the house? I pulled my arm when I raised my hand with Elizabeth urging, so I hope the congregation has insurance. Okay. All right. It is good to be back with you in worship. And please notice the cover on the bulletin. That is not a flock of geese yet. Those are geese that haven't yet followed Anne Marie Brown's suggestions. So keep that in mind as we venture through this commentary here. In times like ours, the call for prophetic action is an imperative. In times like these, prophetic leadership is almost mandated by our communities. But we seek a different kind of leadership, one that is inclusive, democratic, respectful, and not privileged. A leadership that reflects the deepest and most profound spirit of the people. A new kind of leadership that is myriad, expressive of the entire choral voices of community. Well, as you heard in the scripture lesson for today, Paul faced a similar dilemma in Corinth and in the church. One of the commentators suggested that at that time, during Paul's tenure, Corinth was the Las Vegas of Corinth, of the Greek islands. It was an entertainment center, as it was also a seaport in which many, many ships from all over the Mediterranean came to trade. So it was very difficult for the church not to pay attention to the morals or the lack of morals of the wider community. I know you all don't know any about this, have never experienced any of these items, but he discovered that their leadership was dysfunctional. People were choosing sides because at that time gifts was very much a part of Paul's teachings. So those that had this gift thought that their gift was the most important. Those that had this gift said no, theirs was the most important. And the leaders of each of those factions determined that they were the real leaders of the Corinthian church. Very little cooperation amongst them. Very little relationship amongst the different factions. And there was no love lost amongst them. Everybody was a leader, and there were no followers. And in this, Paul is trying to define for them a new way of being church and community. You are all part of the same body. Every one of those parts has a function to act out if the body is to be a body. Everyone may have unique gifts, but they all serve the body, not the individual. Gifts are there for the whole body, not just for one or two. And this is so important. Each member is uniquely unique. If one suffers, everyone suffers. If one rejoices, everyone rejoices. And that's a hard lesson to learn. When I was around 15, I was living in Pomona, California, 30 miles east of LA. And the teenagers had this dance program in Los Angeles, one of the television stations, called Peter Potter's Platter Parade. You've heard it? You're not that old. We all watched it. And one time, my best friend got in that program to dance. And we were watching it. And then people called in to vote for the best dancer, right? I was so jealous that I called and named a different dance pair. You can tell that still resides in my guilt vault. I never told him that because he lost by, guess what? One vote. One vote. Never have forgotten that. And I hope I've learned from that, because I should have rejoiced in his celebration, in his victory. And instead, my selfishness deprived him and me from a celebration. Well, fortunately, Adrienne Marie Brown, Bill, let's change her name. Adrienne Marie is such a beautiful two names, and then Brown? Come on. From now on, she is Adrienne Marie DuPont. Okay? That fits. She tells us leadership of the body is interdependent, mutually reliant on one another. It is decentralized, and this is something that many of us as leaders do not want to even think about. It means that the authority, the power, or whatever we think resides not in one, but in everyone around the community. How many of you have ever been chairs of something? Oh, do we love that, being the chair, huh? Gavel the meeting to order. And I hope some of you do a better job than I do in sharing that kind of leadership. Because some of us have trouble thinking that only we, the chairperson, have the authority to do the agenda, to tell people what to do. Well, that's not what Adrienne Marie DuPont is saying. She says, delegate. Allow the body to be free of the tyranny of the dictator chairperson. It's relational. She says in her writing that unless people understand and have information and share with each other their deepest realities, we cannot be good leaders of one another. So I don't know about you, but I'm a real friendly sort of person, I think. I like to talk to people. I like to find out, and not, hi, how are you?
How are you?
And that's it. You realize that when in my communities where I come from, when you said hi, it wasn't just a perfunctory hi, and then you went, hi meant, hey, it's so great to see you. I've been thinking about how are you doing? How's your family? All that in a hi. And the expectation is that they were supposed to share with you all that information flow. Do we do that? Nah. I mean, it's enough to say, hi, how are you? Bye. But that's what we're asked to do, is to learn about each other and to share with each other. Everyone has something to contribute. Everyone has something to share. So, all can serve in whatever capacity the community requires. All can serve. How many of you have been invited to be an officer of the church and have said, oh, no, I really can't do that? Anybody? Yeah, come on, don't. Yeah, probably more than the ones that are showing your hands. Friends, there is no university, school to go to learn to be a moderator, a treasurer of a church, a secretary. a member of the board, or any other functions of a church. There is no university for that. Everyone learns by doing it and by allowing people the opportunity to do it. So don't be misguided by those who say, well, that person doesn't have any experience. Nobody had any experience to begin with. So, Anne Marie says, leadership comes from the edges. And that's when we get to the geese. Visualize these geese as they reformulate themselves into a V. Oh my God. Into a V. There's a leader, and you all know the story because they've done some wonderful programs on geese on TV, PBS or somebody, in which then they lead for about 10, 20 minutes, and then they just shift. The first goes to the rear, and the next one takes their place, and so on and so on. And this goes on for thousands of miles. Leadership comes from the edges, and they trust that leadership. That one goose or gander who's at the front, as they come back, trust that the next one will keep on the right direction to lead them where they have to do. Anne Marie says that they share and accept sharing with grace and so much style. My God, I would like to see some of our leaders share leadership with grace and style. Is there anybody you have in mind right now in national leadership that might not have grace and style? Huh? Now, this is a nonpartisan pulpit. Okay?
Amen.
Amen. Hey! Please notice I haven't said a word about that. Okay. Grace and style in not giving up, but in sharing that leadership. What an incredible testimony that is to trusting one another, even the ones that sit at the back of the church. Grace and style in sharing leadership. And here's where the Gospel of Hector diverts a little bit from the Gospel, from Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Because he talks about everyone having a part of the body, which is true. But you know, in his description of that community, a hand is always a hand, right? A foot is always a foot, and so on. In the new version of the Gospel according to Hector, every one of the parts of the body can do what any other part of the body can do. This is different. This community of faith can do everything that this community of faith requires of its leaders. Oh yeah, it's okay. It's good to be a moderator, and thank God for those who choose to do that, or a treasurer. But it's even more important to be part of the fellowship that supports and engages in the actual ministry and mission of the church. Any one of us can be up here and preach. Any one of us can do the incredible job of taking care of this facility and anything in between. That's what shared leadership means. It means that everyone has a say. No one is shut off from sharing their contribution for the good of the community. And if you're shy, then your leadership at that particular moment better find a way to have voice for you, to allow you to choose to share. Extroverts, how many extroverts are in this household of God right now? Extroverts. Most people can't stand us. You know why? Because we dominate the conversation. We're not shy. If we see a gap of silence, we'll fill it. We have something to say about everything. I am a super extrovert, friends. So shut me up when you have a chance, okay? But seriously, if we're leaders of a particular group at that particular moment, we have to find a way to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to share their passion, their understanding, their reflection, because that is what builds a community. That is what leadership really is. It's not one, it's the many. And this is what we're being taught by Anne-Marie Brown right now. Oh boy. You've heard about that beloved community. Elizabeth uses that term. We use it quite a bit. It has an incredible history. Your pastor, Michael, and I have been working for over a year on enhancing the beloved community amongst us. It's not an organization, it's a movement. It's understanding that for people to launch out in justice or in building a new tower. Do you need a new tower? You need something. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, in order to do that, people have to really trust each other. People who build relationships, the beloved community is asking us to come together and share story with each other, not to do a program, not to organize and choose a president, but just to be with other people in the community and start sharing themselves with each other. Because we've discovered, and there's enough documentation, that people who care about one another are 10 times more powerful than a community of acquaintances. A community of acquaintances, oh yeah, we support, but it's a limited support. People who love one another in a movement will do 10 times more than acquaintances will. So the beloved community really wants everyone to fall in love with each other, so that then the next time they see you or they at a march or at City Hall or in front of your council or whatever, that's my brother, that's my sister. I'm going to be right there with them. I'm going to go help them. Shared leadership, relational leadership. That's what Paul is talking about. That's what Rosemary Brown and the Gospel of Hector is talking about too. Okay? Now, this term that was put in your bulletin by someone, leadership as Homogestalt. Any psychologists in the congregation? Thank God. Okay? Anyway, Gestalt is a psychological term, meaning the interactive, relational coming together of what? The ego, the superego, and the id. It's a psychological term. But fortunately, since I don't know what all that means, Theodore Sturgeon wrote a book in 1953 called More Than Human. If you haven't read that, I urge you to do that because it's very important. It talks about a number of dysfunctional, unable people lost in community, coming together and realizing that each had different things they could do that they couldn't do individually, and so they gathered themselves together to be able to function as a community. And they discovered that they were able to do not only more than what they thought they could do, but they discovered they could do even more than anybody else could. It was almost a new reality. That's why Mr. Sturgeon called it Homogestalt. That may well be the way we live into our future as a gestalt, rather than as individuals bumping into each other occasionally, but as actually living, thinking organisms as a family, acting as a family. That's going to be very difficult because individualism is what our society is based on. And no one's going to take that away from me. No one. Well, if we keep doing that, the future may be a little bleak, because we're seeing what that's happening on the national level right now. Individualism has gone crazy. If that's the way we go, it's not our answer. It's not what Paul says. It's not what Jesus Christ shared with us. And it's not what we want. So we have to redefine what we understand by individualism in the context of what the community is. And you know that already, because all of us are part of a family. And when we're part of a family, we care for one another in ways that are just incredibly powerful. Oh my God, don't even let the kindergarten teacher of my granddaughter look at her with anything except joy, because I will be on him. That's the way we do. Well, this is what Paul, this is what Anne Marie Brown, this is what a lot of people throughout the ages are asking of us. That what we do with our, what do you call that? I can't say the word nuclear, or is that the bomb? Anyway, you know what I mean, the nuclear family, that we look at one another exactly the same we look at my granddaughter, my wife, my husband, my relatives. And that's a task that is just gigantically difficult. But that's what we're asked to do. You have an opportunity here that is awesome, because you are able to do that. Downstairs in your fellowship room should be a time, which is a time of great joy, great sharing, great storytelling. Because in spite of the fact that some of you have been together for a long time, there are stories yet that you have not heard from your brothers and sisters that will enhance their understanding of who you are and who they are. So friends, I tell you, do you want to be part of this gestalt? That's not a rhetorical question. Do you want to be part of this gestalt? Homogestalt. Well, then the question that Paul, Rosemary, and I have for you is, would you like to be a goose or a gander and be part of that incredible V that the geese have shown us? What will we choose?